these feelings.
Hello guys, HL here, coming to you with another World of Warships Blitz video. In today's video, we will be taking a look at a comparison between two Tier 8 battleships, the Roma and the Richelieu. The Roma and the Richelieu are considered by many as the best battleships at Tier 8 as they each have their own strengths which make them really favorable to players. For example, the Richelieu has her main guns located in her bow so she can bow tank, while the Roma has the precise aim and rapid reload combo that allows her to throw out 2 salvos of shells quickly and accurately. Both are ships that I have, and I really enjoy playing these ships as they are really fun to play and they have very different playstyles. Today, I have decided to make a video comparing both of these ships so you guys can decide which Tier 8 battleship is better, and I will be comparing their strengths and weaknesses in this video. The builds that I use for both ships should be coming up on the screen right now, so if you guys want to know how I set up these ships, you can take a look. Before we start, I also wanted to mention that this kind of comparison video actually takes longer time to write and to make compared to the other videos, so if you guys could hit the subscribe button, that would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. The first thing which we will be starting with is the survivability of both ships. The Roma has 50,070 hit points, which is a little higher than Richelieu's 48,000 hit points, or to be exact, 48,474 HP. Both of them share the same amount of damage reduction at 15%, but the Roma has 15% of citadel protection as well as fire and flooding damage resistance as compared to the Richelieu's 12.5%. The Roma has a much higher torpedo damage reduction. I think it's the highest of any ship in the game at 31.8%, while the Richelieu has an average torpedo damage reduction of 20.67%. And speaking of this, the Roma is also slightly better at dodging torpedoes than Richelieu, so the Roma overall can take less damage from torpedoes and she can worry less about them. While the Roma has advantages in some forms of protection and health, like bigger health pool and higher torpedo damage reduction and stuff, the Richelieu has the advantage of being able to tank bow in. This makes her profile smaller and makes her harder to hit, so she can take less damage this way. In terms of armor, Roma is pretty decent at tanking damage as her armor is very evenly distributed as compared to stuff like the Amagi, which takes a lot of damage if she gets hit in the broadside. The Roma's armor is, like I said, good, though it's not as good as German battleships because it's not the brawling style of turtleback armor, it's just normal armor but it's good. The Richelieu has strong armor in her bow, but relatively weaker armor for her broadside, so she's very good for tanking bow in and you can take less damage doing that as compared to showing a broadside and being hit and being citadel easily, as the Richelieu's side armor isn't really that good. The next thing we will be looking at is the maneuverability of the ships, or as some people like to say, how well the ships handle or the handling. In terms of speed, the Roma can do 29 knots with the build I use, while the Richelieu is a little bit faster at 13 knots. The Richelieu also has a little bit more of a speed advantage as she has access to the engine accelerator consumable, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, can boost to around 34 or 35 knots, making her really fast. The Richelieu can also reach full speed a little bit faster than the Roma, although it's only faster by 1 second. But this gives her an edge as she can easily run away from threats the moment you discover you are being, let's say, rushed by a DD or your flank is being overwhelmed. Though both ships are still pretty good at running, just that the Richelieu is a little bit faster. For turn time, or how fast the ship turns around, or it's not turn, it's rather traverse, they are pretty much identical at 10 seconds, which is pretty decent for a battleship. As a result, both ships are decently good or very good at dodging torpedoes and enemy shells coming from far away, though arguably the Roma is a little bit better as her hull is slightly more streamlined, she's shorter, and her hull is, let's say, streamlined, which can also be defined as slim. So there is a little bit less area to shoot at, provided both ships are positioned in the same way. For the main battery guns, the Roma has 381mm guns in a 3x3 configuration, while the Richelieu has 380mm guns in a 2x4 configuration, which is kind of similar to her sister, or not sister ship, but the other French battleship at tier 8, the Gascon. They have the same gun caliber and the same kind of turret design. But back to topic, both the Roma and the Richelieu share the same high damage AP shells and the average damage HE shells, or as I said, they are just average. They aren't particularly good like the British ones, and they aren't too bad when dealing with enemy destroyers, though the HE should only be cracked out when you are shooting destroyers, as you won't really gain too much from shooting battleships with them, as trust me, I've tried using HE only to shoot battleships from far away just for fun, and it didn't turn out very well. The turret traverse time of both these ships' guns are quite similar at around 5 degrees, which is decent enough for them to turn their guns around and hit the enemies quickly. The thing that truly sets the Richelieu apart from the Roma is the Richelieu has 14.69 kilometers of range on her main guns as compared to Roma's 14.08 kilometers. This means that the Richelieu can be shelling the Roma from even further away before the Roma can shoot back. The Richelieu has a faster reload than the Roma at 19 seconds compared to the Roma's 21 seconds, though the Roma can compensate for this by having the rapid reload consumable. In terms of AP shell penetration and dispersion, the Roma performs slightly better than the Richelieu as her shell groupings are often tighter and the shells really penetrate the targets very hard to the extent that sometimes you get all overpans and no penetrations. Another thing that makes the Roma and the Richelieu very different is the Roma has a conventional ABX turret layout, which is the typical 2 at the bow, 1 at the stern layout with ships like North Carolina, Iowa, and Yamato have, while the Richelieu has a more unique bow-only turret layout. So she can't hit targets at the back, but she can just sit there and bow tank and have all her guns on the enemy, as opposed to ships like the Roma. If she Roma bow tanks, she loses 3 guns in the back, so there's less damage output. This means that the Richelieu overall is a bow tanking ship, as I said, and the Roma plays a little bit more like a regular battleship as she has a normal gun layout. One more thing to mention about the main guns to keep in mind is that the Richelieu's guns get knocked out a little bit more easily than Roma, so watch out if you are brawling your enemies or your enemies keep aiming for your guns, as losing your guns can really affect your damage output, especially if you lose both of them and you do not have damage control to repair the guns. So yeah, basically take care of the guns if you are playing the Richelieu. After the main guns, the next thing we will be looking at are the secondary guns, which I will only be talking about briefly or not too long because they are not as good and don't have as much to talk about as something like the German battleship secondaries, which can really rip stuff like cruisers and destroyers apart at close range. The Roma and the Richelieu, the secondaries, I would just say they are sufficient to rack up some extra damage on ships that come very close. So, the Roma has 152mm manual secondaries with a 4x3 layout with 2 on each side, while the Richelieu has the same caliber of secondaries, but she has a 3x3 layout with all of them located at the stern of the ship, which means they can't fire when you are trying to aim forward. The Roma's secondaries have a reload time of 8 seconds, I mean the manual ones, and the Richelieu's manual secondaries have a reload time of 9 seconds. Generally, as I said, these two are not going to be used too often as the Roma and the Richelieu are not brawling focused PvPs, though don't get me wrong, they can certainly brawl well in the right situations. The Roma's secondaries are slightly easier to use as they can fire in almost any direction except directly forward and directly backward, whereas the Richelieu has to show some broadside to use them. For auto secondaries, the Roma's secondaries, the auto ones are 90mm, while the auto secondaries on the Richelieu are 100mm. Both of them aren't that effective most of the time because they often do not hit targets, especially stuff like destroyers, because as you know, AI controlled secondaries are not very accurate. And the damage output of the secondaries when they do hit, I think it's like 90 damage, so it's not really significant unless you can successfully use them to start fires, which the enemy will not damage con if they have a damage control. Though it's rare, as most enemies will instantly hit the damage con the moment they get set on fire. So yeah, the auto secondaries basically don't do too much damage in a battle. When it comes to anti-aircraft guns, the Richelieu is miles ahead of the Roma. She is easily capable of shooting down a number of planes with lower health, such as those from Japanese aircraft carriers Shogaku, Kiryu, and Kaga. So if you get rushed by a Kaga, you can definitely remove quite a number of planes, and your AA will make many CV captains think twice about attacking you, as not constantly attacking you will yield them great losses. As such, also, the Richelieu can partially defend herself from CV attacks or act as an AA support ship for ships such as the Roma with weaker anti-aircraft guns. Speaking of the Roma, she has the worst AA of all carrier battleships, making her a favorite target of CVs, as they won't lose that many planes attacking the Roma. Though the Roma's high torpedo damage reduction and good turn time and rudder shift allows her to dodge torpedoes quite easily, so that mitigates some of the damage. Though I would say in the end it's still best for the Roma to sail together with ships like the Richelieu or something like, let's say, the North Cal or Cleveland, because those can provide the anti-aircraft firepower the Roma needs to reduce the chances of being struck by the enemy CV and staying alive to continue fighting and dealing damage in the battle. So guys, in my opinion, both of these ships are great and definitely worth buying when they are on sale. To determine which ship suits you better, I would say it is very important to know your playstyle, as both of them play very differently. From my experience, the Roma is better suited for an offensive playstyle and is more versatile overall, as her turrets, for example, I say she has a back turret so she can hit enemies behind her, and she can fire in other directions or almost any direction pretty easily, which makes her comparable to a ship like North Cal, but better as she has higher damage armor piercing shells, or rather more accurate shells, higher amount of penetration, so you get citadels more often. The Richelieu, on the other hand, I would say is more suitable for a defensive playstyle, because the bow tanking allows her to pretty much camp at the spot and act as what you could say a side anchor, which means she can just sit there and defend the site until her teammates arrive and back her up, either the enemy backs away or she gets overwhelmed. Though a skilled Richelieu player is a little hard to overwhelm, as she can easily take you out without allowing you to kill her quickly. If your teammates help her, the Richelieu will also be able to tank and eventually push up and get control of the site. As I just mentioned, the Richelieu can push up, but it should be done closer to mid and late game, as she's not a brawling focused ship, and pushing early will result in you being targeted and shot at by all the enemies, being overwhelmed and being knocked out of the battle. Pushing the Richelieu also requires more caution, as the guns are easily taken out, and she will be unable to shoot enemies that are going behind her. So yeah, basically push carefully if you are going to push in the Richelieu. And guys, that basically brings us to the end of the video of the comparisons between two tier 8 battleships, and I would like to say the best battleships at tier 8. Hopefully this video has allowed you guys to decide which ship is the better one or better suited for you, or which ship to buy if you plan on picking them up the next time they are on sale. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. If you guys want me to compare other ships, please leave a comment down in the comment section down below. I also have a Discord server which you guys can join by using a link in the video description, so if you guys want to chat, you can join the server. And basically that's it, that's all for now. My name is Richelieu, and I'll see you guys next time.